already know, I have activated C2 Iansan because one of the Discord members, Genshin, wanted me to have a quick look at C2 Iansan and really just dive deep into what kind of buffs we're getting and how strong those buffs are from something like C2 Iansan. So that's what we're going to have a look at. We're here with Iansan just somewhere in Natland because we're chilling. And this is a build that I have on Iansan with Scroll of the Heroes in the City. Now for reference, I just want everyone to understand that at the start, I have an Arlecchino build with 2,400 attack, I have a Mavuika build with about 2,000 attack, and I have a Xingqiu build with about 1,600 attack, okay? So, if we were to actually play C2 Iansan by just basically skill, like so, then obviously if we start swapping over to someone like Arlecchino, we now have a whopping 3,400 attack, so that is of course really high. That's a marked improvement. With someone like Mavuika, so long as we maintain that 42 Night Soul mark, we have 3,223 attack, so that's another marked improvement. And for someone like Xingqiu, we now have 2,484 attack as well, which is still a pretty marked improvement right there. Because let's remind ourselves what C2 Iansan is. It's plus 30% of the character's base attack on top of the flat attack buff that you're already getting from C2 Iansan. So if your Iansan's ult is crowned, that's 690 flat attack at maximum, provided you have enough attack on Iansan to support that, of course. And provided you have that, 42 Night Soul on Iansan, then yeah, at least in that regard, it is 690 attack, plus 30% of the character's base attack. So for my Arlecchino build, it's plus 30% of 1,000 attack, so that's plus 300. We're bringing that up to basically another 1,000 attack. So that's why Arlecchino's attack buff ended up being really high. One other thing that I was actually very curious about is whether or not C2 Iansan can actually outperform C6 Sara with regards to, of course, Electro carries, because the C6 Sara buff is plus 60% crit damage for Electro damage, which is often considered really strong. And what I discovered is that there is one very specific scenario where you can actually slightly outperform C6 Sara with a C2 Iansan, but you'd have to actively not play the Sara team properly. Let me explain. I am talking about, let's say, a team like Cloran Aggravate Hypercarry team with Shillidan. If you don't get the Electro crystallized from Shillidan, thus activating the scroll set, and we just look at all the buffs that a scroll Iansan can provide versus C6 Sara without like noblesse or anything like that, yeah, C2 Iansan will outperform C6 Sara by a smidge. Posted the numbers up on the screen as I saw them, but hopefully I also do the split screen video to demonstrate what I'm talking about. But the moment, of course, that you actually do play this team properly by getting a scroll buff from Shillidan, yeah, all bets are off. It is a complete wipe with C6 Sara over C2 Iansan. So as long as all the various buffs are active, yes, C6 Sara will still defeat C2 Iansan. But this only works if you're using Absolution, or I guess another crit damage weapon, because at that point, then obviously we run into the hilarious position where C6 Sara's buff being oops or crit damage ends up running into a bit of a diminishing return, as it tends to be called in the community. And that's only because your build probably already has quite a lot of crit damage, because Absolution is quite a lot of crit damage. Basically know this by looking at the numbers. If you were to use a different weapon like, I don't know, Cursed Umbrella, if you were to use Tokubo Shigeru, yeah, at no point can you get C2 Iansan to outperform C6 Sara. Even if you were to play the Sara team in a scuffed way by not getting the scroll buff, C6 Sara is still slightly outperforming C2 Iansan. But I just thought that was a little bit interesting, that for those who, I guess, really find, let's say, Nahida's overwhelming Dendro app to be just a little too overwhelming, or perhaps you can't get an underlying Electro aura for whatever reason, then yeah, C2 Iansan would actually end up being slightly better than C6 Sara. Or, yeah, slightly better than C6 Sara. But generally speaking, you won't really find that at least in my opinion. And then on top of that, like, you can still use C6 Sara anyway. Like, it's not off by like a huge amount. So then you can use your Iansan on a different team, like let's say a Mavuika team or something like that. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. I just find C2 Iansan to be already pretty damn strong. Obviously, when C6 Iansan kicks in, things are gonna get crazy because, well, what's on the way to C6 Iansan? C5 Iansan. So that's going to be really, really exciting indeed. And I think there's going to be another numbers discussion that is going to be worth looking into, because definitely at C2 Iansan, for I think most characters, we're going to be seeing more flat attack coming from Iansan, or rather, I guess, a bigger attack buff in general coming from Iansan as opposed to coming from Sara, unless we start playing Noblesse Sara. But in that case, I could potentially look at playing Noblesse Iansan, and that means it's at this point 690 attack plus 50% attack coming from Iansan and Noblesse. So I've actually been doing that a fair bit. Basically in any team where I don't think I can get a decent enough reaction from Iansan, because unfortunately Electro is not Pyro and therefore it can't react with a double aura like how Pyro can, which is why Scroll Mavuika is kind of based and goated. Yeah, if that's not an option, then Noblesse Iansan ends up being a thing, and that's how we basically see this speedrun of the anti-grav machine. Or maybe it was the speedrun of the anti-grav machine that I put at the start of the video. That was mainly thanks to C2 Iansan plus Noblesse. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Genshin Impact. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.